So, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, January 6, 2026, we're looking at something pretty extraordinary. It's like we're watching two completely different kinds of war unfold at the exact same time.
That's right. On one hand, you have this brutal, low-tech, attritional grind.
And on the other, a display of hyper-advanced, almost surgical kinetic power.
Yeah, and we've got footage to back it up. We have this shocking new video that's been leaked from the Pokrovsk direction.
It shows Ukrainian special forces, the USF, just dismantling Russian assaults. And what's really wild is what the Russians are using to attack.
Light, high-speed vehicles, basically buggies.
Exactly. But this tactical story, this, the display of ingenuity on the front line, it's happening against a backdrop of some huge geopolitical moves.
Huge is the word. We're also going to be analyzing the fallout from that recent U.S. operation in Venezuela, the one that resulted in the capture of President Maduro.
The precision of that operation, absolute resolve, was just breathtaking. It happened so fast. And it raises some really big questions about what modern military power even looks like today.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. First, we'll unpack what these tactics in Ukraine are telling us about the future of ground warfare.
And then we'll analyze what that lightning-fast takedown in Venezuela means for Europe and the global balance of power.
Okay, let's get into it, starting with what's happening on the ground in Ukraine, because the sources we have really paint a picture of a major Russian failure to adapt.
Right, so this leaked footage from Pokrovsk, it's a key battlefront, tons of fighting there, and it shows Ukrainian artillery just hammering a column of Russian assault troops.
And they're trying another frontal assault, which is a tactic that has been failing them for years now.
But the truly striking thing is how they're doing it. They're using these light vehicles. They're essentially militarized dune buggies. It's just another example of Russia sticking to these high-casualty, human-wave tactics.
And if we look closer at the vehicle itself, it's pretty revealing. We're talking about the Desert Cross 1003. It's an all-terrain vehicle, an ATV.
It's Chinese supplied, right?
Yeah, Chinese supplied. Lightweight, carries 3 people, plus a little cargo. They're fast, but the critical thing here is they have almost zero protection.
Zero protection. And yet Russia has deployed, what, at least 2,000 of them by late 2024? The huge investment in something that seems totally wrong for a modern battlefield filled with drones.
It's a massive commitment, and there's a real irony here. I mean, the idea of a light frontline vehicle isn't new for them. It kind of echoes the old Soviet LUAZ 967 from the 60s.
Which was amphibious, wasn't it? It could cross rivers.
It was. It was designed for recon, getting wounded soldiers out of tough spots. This new buggy can't even do that. It lacks the one key feature of its Soviet predecessor.
So analysts are looking at this, and what are they concluding? What's the rationale?
Well, it seems to boil down to 2 possibilities, and neither is good for the Kremlin. First, massive corruption, big markups on these cheap commercial vehicles, making insiders rich.
Okay.
The second, and maybe more worrying for them, is a deep distrust in their own domestic military manufacturing. They can't produce what they need on time, so they're forced to buy thousands of these foreign buggies just to keep the assaults going.
So it's a solution born out of desperation.
Exactly, not some clever new doctrine. And that desperation is being met by a very organized, very high-tech Ukrainian defense.
Right, because stopping these buggy assaults in Pokrovsk, it's all part of a larger dual-task strategy.
A dual task. It's about wearing down Russia's offensive potential, making them bleed for every inch. But at the same time, it's about preserving their own forces for a more mobile, flexible defense.
And these vulnerable high-speed attacks are just perfect targets for that kind of network defense.
They are. And the key tool in that network is, of course, the drone. Ukrainian drone interdiction of Russian supply lines, their GLOCs, has been absolutely throttling their advance in Pokrovsk.
The numbers are pretty staggering. Sources say drones have cut logistics to some assault groups by up to 90%.
90%. Just think about that. That means 9 out of 10 trucks with your fuel, your ammo, your food, it's not getting through.
So even if Russian teams use bad weather, like fog, to infiltrate, they can't hold any ground because they have no support behind them.
Precisely. It shows the real fight isn't just on the front line. It's about choking off the supply chain that feeds it.
And that focus on drones brings us to this really strategic pivot in the war. The creation of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, the USF.
Yeah, this move to create a whole new independent branch of the military just for drones it's monumental.
It signals a complete change in military thinking, doesn't it? The drone isn't just a support tool anymore.
No, it's the primary weapon. Ukraine did this in 2024, and it set a precedent. Russia scrambled to copy them a year later, in 2025. It shows you who's driving the innovation here.
And the man leading this revolution is Commander Robert Magyar Brovdi. His background is fascinating. He was a businessman before the war.
A businessman in construction and agriculture, of all things. And now he's commanding this major new force. It's emblematic of this new type of nonconformist commander.
That entrepreneurial mindset seems to be a real asset. The ability to adapt to scale things up quickly.
It's a core military skill now. And the results, the metrics, are just devastatingly effective.
He released one metric that is just. It's mind-blowing. The USF, which is only 2% of total Ukrainian personnel.
Right, a tiny fraction.
They account for 1/3 of all enemy casualties.
1/3. That kind of efficiency completely redefines the cost-benefit analysis of modern warfare. It tells you exactly where the lethality is.
And Brody has taken this analysis a step further with his kill zone prediction.
Yes, the kill zone. He argues that drone tech is evolving so fast that it's creating this definitive dead zone on the battlefield.
A dead zone that extends 15 to 20 kilometers out from both sides of the front line. What does that actually mean for soldiers on the ground?
It means that within that radius, about 10 miles or so, there's constant aerial surveillance. Any movement, a single person, a vehicle, anything gets spotted and can be targeted almost instantly.
So movement just becomes impossible.
Practically impossible. He predicts that all the close-in fighting will eventually have to be done by drones fighting other drones. Humans won't be able to survive in that space.
Wow. That completely upends traditional maneuver warfare. If your command posts and supply depots have to be 25 kilometers back just to be safe, your logistics changes snaps.
It snaps. It forces a total decentralization. And this isn't just about cheap FPV drones anymore either. If you look at the jobs the USF is hiring for.
It's not infantry, it's high-tech specialists.
Exactly. FPV pilots, sure, but also data analysts, embedded software engineers who know C++, Python, Java. They're hiring cybersecurity specialists.
The battlefield is a software environment now.
It is. Ukraine is proving that the winner isn't just who has the best hardware, but who can network and scale the technology faster. That's adaptive defense.
It's hard to imagine anything more futuristic than that kill zone, but we have to pivot now to a display of power that felt both hyper-modern and, in a way, very traditional.
Right. The January 3rd U.S. military operation in Venezuela, Operation Absolute Resolve.
The one that ended with the capture of President Maduro and his wife. It was the complete opposite of that slow grind in Pokrovsk. This was all about speed and spectrum dominance.
A textbook high-tech takedown. But, for years, military analysts thought Venezuela's air defense system, their IADS, was a real deterrent. It was supplied by Russia.
So what happened? How did it get breached so easily?
The systems themselves were basically made irrelevant before the fight even started. The operation began with a strike that was designed to neutralize that whole integrated system. We're talking Russian S-300 long-range missiles, complex radar networks.
And the time it took to neutralize all of that.
12 minutes.
12.
12 minutes. An entire nation's high-end air defense blinded. It started with F-35 stealth fighters using precision JDAMs on command posts and radar sites.
But the bombs weren't the whole story, were they? It was something else that made it so fast.
No, the key was electronic warfare. The F-35s were flying with EA-18G Growler aircraft. These are the spectral disruptors.
The jammers?
Exactly. They deployed next-gen jammer pods that were able to disrupt the Venezuelan radar signals from over 100 nautical miles away. So the Russian S-300s, which need radar to work, were deaf and blind.
Before the first kinetic strike even landed.
Precisely. That 12-minute window was all they needed. Once the air was clear, a low-altitude corridor opened up for Delta Force. They came in on MH-60 Blackhawks, flew in under the radar, and conducted the raid without any real opposition.
It's a very clear message, especially considering how close Russia's military ties were with Venezuela.
And no doubt, Russia supplied the backbone of their air force, the Su-30 jets, and all their best air defense systems. The fact that this high-end Russian tech collapsed so quickly, that sends a powerful signal to every other country that buys Russian military hardware.
And beyond the military implications, the geopolitical fallout here is huge, especially when it comes to oil.
The sources we have note that legal experts immediately called it a severe breach of international law. But the real driver here is economics. Venezuela has something like 17% of the world's proven oil reserve.
It's ultra-heavy crude, though. Hard to refine.
It is, but U.S. Gulf Coast refineries are actually configured specifically to process that kind of crude. So more U.S. access to that oil threatens China's major investments in Venezuela's oil industry. It was a military operation with immediate global economic consequences.
So this contrast, the slow grind in Ukraine versus the lightning struck in Venezuela, it brings us back to the bigger picture for Europe. Because despite Russia's tactical failures and this overwhelming display of Western power,
Their political goals haven't changed one bit. They remain maximalist.
as of late 2025, the Kremlin is still rejecting any peace proposals. They see things like the U.S. 28-point plan as just a suggestion.
Right. A state media columnist spelled it out pretty clearly. Russia is aiming for a complete battlefield victory, and that includes the demand for a total NATO withdrawal from all of Eastern Europe.
So the high casualty rates, the failed buggy assaults, none of that is deterring their long-term absolutist vision.
No, they're banking on outlasting the West's commitment. And while that conventional war grinds on, Russia is running what military planners call a Phase Zero hybrid campaign across Europe.
Phase zero. That's the covert stuff, right? Operations to destabilize and sow chaos before a conflict even starts?
Precisely. We saw it in Poland last November. Polish officials blamed Russian security services for sabotage attacks on their railways. They're trying to disrupt NATO logistics, undermine public trust. It's setting the stage.
And meanwhile, back in Ukraine, those defensive drone tactics we talk about are having a massive economic impact on the Russian war machine itself.
Yes. Despite what the Kremlin says, there are clear signs of macroeconomic instability. And the main reason is Ukraine's very effective drone campaign against Russian oil refineries.
What's the real cost of that campaign? What are the numbers?
By September 2025, those strikes had caused a 38% drop in Russia's primary oil refining capacity.
38%. That's not an inconvenience. That's a strategic blow to their fuel supply.
It is. It's led to fuel rationing, price spikes. It hits their military logistics hard, and they're scrambling to mitigate it. They're desperately looking for new revenue. They just increased their VAT, their main sales tax, from 20% to 22%, specifically to fund the war. And they're now trying to import gasoline from China, South Korea, Belarus.
So they've gone from a major exporter to needing to import fuel.
Exactly. It shows that Ukraine's strategy of hitting their economic engine is working. It's draining the resources that sustain the war.
So when we put it all together, what we're seeing are these two completely different models of conflict playing out.
Yeah. On one side, you have Russia's high-casualty, low-tech buggy assaults in Ukraine. It's a meat grinder. And on the other, you have this hyper-advanced 12-minute precision takedown in Venezuela.
What stands out to me is that the future of war, the one defined by drones and that kill zone, it's already happening in Ukraine. And the cost of not adapting to it is proving crippling for Russia.
And that raises a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. How does this rise of drone warfare, which makes large-scale movements so dangerous, affect NATO's traditional defensive strategy? A strategy that relies heavily on maneuvering large formations of troops and tanks.
Especially when Russia is simultaneously ramping up these Phase Zero hybrid attacks, trying to poison the well before a fight even starts. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.